Our conversation today is with Matthew McLaughlin, an attorney out of Jackson, as a business attorney specializing in the food and beverage sector, specifically in the craft beer market. Matthew, so pleased to have you with us today, and anxious to hear your story and hear what words of wisdom you have for our entrepreneurs. But let's begin at the beginning. So take us back to what got you into law and what got you where you're practicing what you are today.
Sure. So I guess what got me into law was like where so many other lawyers start, a desire to help people. I've always been able to write really well. And so that kind of skill set sort of naturally pushed me in the direction of law. I went to law school right when I finished at Millsaps College, and then got my LLM in tax from the University of Florida after I finished law school and took the bar exam. From there, I started to work for a very large regional law firm, doing M&A work, sophisticated finance work, a lot of regulatory work in the gaming and hospitality industry. But over time, started to gravitate more towards earlier stage companies, and that's where I really kind of found my passion, working with early stage startups and entrepreneurs. I was inspired by their creativity. I was inspired by their resourcefulness, their nimbleness, and really wanted to kind of focus my practice on that particular cohort. After my first run with the large regional law firm, I transitioned over to an even larger law firm to help launch their startup and emerging company platform in Mississippi. And was there for a couple of years before ultimately deciding that the best way for me to serve this particular group of clients was to be as lean and nimble as they are. And so 4.5 years ago, I hung my own shingle and opened up McLaughlin PC, which is a boutique corporate and regulatory firm based in Jackson. We have offices in Birmingham, Alabama, and pre-COVID had an office in Memphis, Tennessee as well. So we serve the alcohol regulatory industry. We work with a lot of food manufacturers, and work with clients in the nascent kind of medical cannabis industry.
And I first met you, I think you were working with the Mississippi Brewers Guild, and we took some MBA students and did a financial impact study of what the impact craft beer had in the state of Tennessee. Folks may take it for granted now that there's craft beer just about everywhere, but there was a time not so long ago when it was a real struggle to be in the craft beer business in Mississippi.
It was, the intersection of craft beer and the law. I could not have scripted this better for my professional career if I was writing the story. I had the good fortune of studying abroad when I was at Millsaps, and was spending time in local kind of pubs and breweries over there, and it just really opened my eyes as to what that product could be from a taste perspective and a culinary perspective. And then coming back from that trip in the late 90s and early 2000s, you were really limited in terms of what sort of craft beer you could get in Mississippi. And so it was an interesting time, and I had the good fortune of meeting Mark and Leslie Henderson, who opened Lazy Magnolia back in 2005, and have been sort of their advisor from a business and legal and regulatory and sort of life perspective, and them for me as well. I mean, we've become incredibly close friends over the last 15 or 16 years, and so I have been in the passenger seat, so to speak, of watching an industry develop, which has been incredibly unique and a very rewarding part of my career. But now, we're blessed. We've got, multiple breweries. We've had some contraction over the last few years. It's gotten extremely competitive to get shelf space, but we have sort of hit the critical mass in Mississippi, I think.
And of course, these are entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurship in Mississippi is an interesting beast right now. You are a voice in the entrepreneurial wilderness in Mississippi, and at the E-Center we have often referenced you and pointed our students your way. What do you think, in a broad sense, what is the state of entrepreneurship in Mississippi?
I think it's positive right now. watching that sort of come full circle has been a privilege as well. From a policy perspective, I think we have not, as a state, have not embraced sort of the reallocation of resources towards fully incentivizing or supporting entrepreneurship or helping really the ecosystem develop like some of our neighbors have. We have historically incentivized the development of large scale manufacturing, sort of the business recruitment strategy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you've been an observer of economic development trends over the last 20 years, the states that are really doing it well and are able to succeed in reversing brain drain and maintaining, an educated population base and creating jobs are the ones that are focusing on really creative community development strategies and strategies to prop up and support entrepreneurial ecosystems. I think Mississippi has started to make positive strides in that direction over the last 4 to 5 years. We've seen some incredible companies come out of the East Center at Mississippi State. We've seen some incredible companies, grow organically that have been supported by Innovate Mississippi. We have helped with the formation of multiple angel investment funds. So there is an organization of capital that is starting to take place on the sidelines, and frankly, that doesn't happen unless there is deal flow or investable companies. And so those are all very, very, very positive signs that I see. And I think from an entrepreneurship perspective, Mississippi's best days are certainly ahead of us.
You're starting to see a shift too, I think, in the thinking of the political leadership. It wasn't too long ago, I think both you and I were at the same conference when the party line about brain drain in the state of Mississippi just chose to ignore it when statistically it's not hard to prove that young people are leaving. Sure. I see a shift in that out of the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor. You sensing that as well, that they're acknowledging that brain drain is an issue that has to be dealt with?
I think so. I mean, it's undeniable at this point. I mean, you can't argue with data, and it is certainly, to me, it is one of Mississippi's most significant problems. I mean, we have certainly taken steps in the right direction to hopefully course correct, but there really needs to be a completely holistic approach to policy reform here. People are leaving for a whole bunch of reasons, better perceived opportunities, a higher degree of acceptance and tolerance on social issues. And so I think entrepreneurship can be a big part of that conversation. I think we need to kind of, rewire people to think more about trying to start a job and really, or start a company to create a job as opposed to looking for employment in a more traditional sense. In my opinion, that's the state's biggest value proposition that I just don't think we are doing a good job of articulating. The old saying within the entrepreneurship community is fail fast, fail quick, fail cheap, and, kind of do it again. Mississippi is a really, really great place to do that. It's an inexpensive place to start a business. We have, a quality of life that for the price point that is few can replicate. And so I really think focusing on that could go a long way to helping reverse some of the brain drain issues.
Yeah, I agree. And we have churned out a handful of startups with $1 million valuations, and all but one have stayed in Mississippi. And our most successful Glow, which you're well aware of, Hagen Walker says that he's not sure they would be where they are had they not stayed in Mississippi, because if you take the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation model and put it in Mississippi, it's like 3, right? You always know somebody who knows somebody who can get you an answer, and that can be an advantage, being small.
Absolutely, and Glow is the, in my opinion, quintessential case study of what we really need to be trying to support from an ecosystem development perspective. You have very bright college kids that are highly motivated, that come up with an idea and they get the right support and the right team around them, which is unbelievably important. I mean, the idea is certainly important, but execution of that is even more important. And they eventually start to gain traction, and then you've got a community that is willing to kind of walk down the path with them and share in that journey, knowing that, look, this will result in investment in a brick and mortar establishment, and there will be people in our community on payroll that previously weren't. And that sort of organic economic development, that gardening of economic development opportunities is a lot more impactful and a lot more economical, from a public, commitment perspective, state and local dollars, than going out and trying to, attract a manufacturer that's going to come put a plant in an industrial park. And again, there's nothing really wrong with that, but the Glow example is just spot on. I mean, that is what we need to be really focusing our incentives on here in Mississippi.
Yeah, and there's a fringe benefit we're seeing, and we'll keep using the Glow example. I mean, we need to, I guess, chase the smokestacks, right? But I call what happened with Glow boutique economic development, because not only did the company stay here, they rehabilitated an empty building on Main Street. They've got 22 employees, but Hagen Walker, the co-founder, is also president of the Main Street Board, and he's an engineer. So there was a dark area between the university and downtown that had a bridge that was, was poorly lit, and he figured out a way to light up the bridge, and it changes colors. So these intangible benefits that the entrepreneur can bring to a community. At the original Glow headquarters, there was a public garden right on the sidewalk. You could, on the way home from work, pick some tomatoes or cucumbers, right, for free, and just take them with you. It's those things that really help define a community. And again, it's not either or. We're not saying don't do the smokestacks, but you can also have this sort of creative growth in the community as well.
Absolutely. There is an appropriate blend of the two strategies, and frankly, I think we need to be moving a little bit more towards the ecosystem development end. But no, the secondary, tertiary benefits that you have, or that you gain from someone that has started something locally, they are more likely to stick around. They are not going to leave when the incentives run out. They're not going to leave at the expiration of the MOU. They're going to stay, and they're going to become embedded in the community, and they're going to become, the president of local nonprofit boards, and they're going to, they're going to be involved in the school system because their children are going to be going to school there. They're going to be heavily invested, and it's an incredible ROI for the dollars from a public perspective.
Well, I can't let you get away without asking you to give some tips to students here who may be wanting to start a business. If you could help them avoid some pitfalls, it would certainly be value added to this discussion, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, the area where we see people making the most significant mistakes early out of the gate is not rounding out the right team. We spend a whole lot of time counseling early stage companies on having the right team. Making sure that as a founder that you're self-aware enough to know that you cannot do everything. You need to find people that have complementary skill sets to you, both from a technical perspective, but just from a strategic thinking perspective too. The most successful startups that we work with, the ones that we see go on to raise money and raise subsequent rounds of money and get $1 million, $2 million, $3 million valuations early on in the process, have really been thoughtful about how they have built that founding team. And then also, more importantly, have they surrounded themselves with the right advisors, the CPAs, the lawyers, the folks that really know the discrete issues that are present with early stage companies. It's getting the team right out of the gate is critically important.
Well, I want to thank you for talking with us. You literally have had a profound impact on the innovation entrepreneur landscape in Mississippi. So I know the East Center credits you and really appreciates all you've done and your willingness to share that with others.
Sure.
So thank you.
Absolutely,
so much.
My pleasure. And anything we can do to help, we're here for you.
Thank you, Matthew McLaughlin.